B-2 stealth bombers. Now, that's the first time those billion-dollar aircraft have been used against the Houthis.
In a recent escalation of military operations against Houthi rebels, the United States has deployed one of its most sophisticated aircraft in a devastating strike. The B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, known as America's Invisible Angel of Death, recently conducted a massive bombing run against a hidden Houthi underground facility. The mission has sent shockwaves through the region as military analysts examine the aftermath of what appears to be a complete obliteration of the target. The B-2 Spirit isn't just another military aircraft, it's a technological marvel that most enemies never see coming. Looking like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, this bat-winged bomber represents the pinnacle of American stealth technology. Each one costs around $2 billion, making it literally worth its weight in gold. The B-2's unusual flying wing design isn't just for show, its flat curved surface helps it absorb radar signals instead of bouncing them back, making it nearly invisible to enemy detection systems. When the B-2 takes to the skies, it carries an impressive arsenal hidden in its weapons bays. These bombers can deliver both conventional bombs and nuclear weapons with pinpoint accuracy from high altitudes. The B-2 can carry up to 40,000 pounds of weapons. That's the weight of about 10 mid-sized cars, all while flying at high altitudes beyond the reach of most air defenses. Only 21 of these incredible machines were ever built, and each one requires extensive maintenance to keep its stealth capabilities functioning properly. The special radar-absorbing materials covering the aircraft need constant attention, with maintenance crews often spending 60 hours on upkeep for every hour the plane spins in the air. When these bombers deploy, they usually operate from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, though they can fly missions from bases worldwide thanks to in-flight refueling capabilities. The decision to send a B-2 against Houthi targets represents a serious escalation and shows just how determined the U.S. military is to neutralize this threat. These bombers are reserved for the most critical missions, the kind where failure isn't an option and total destruction is the goal. To understand why America would deploy its premier stealth bomber, we need to look at who the Houthis are and why they've become such a pressing concern. The Houthi movement, officially called Ansar Allah, supporters of God, began as a relatively small religious and political group in northern Yemen in the 1990s. Over time, they transformed into a powerful fighting force, seizing Yemen's capital Sana'a in 2014 and triggering a devastating civil war that continues today. What started as a local conflict has expanded into something much bigger. The Houthis have increasingly targeted international shipping in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden with missiles and explosive-packed drone boats. These waterways are critical for global trade. Roughly 12% of world shipping passes through them. When the Houthis began disrupting this shipping, they effectively threatened the global economy. The Houthi arsenal has grown surprisingly sophisticated over time. While they claim to build their weapons locally, many experts believe Iran supplies them with advanced missiles, drones, and technical know-how. Their underground bunkers and cave systems have become increasingly complex, housing command centers, weapons storage facilities, and launch sites for their growing arsenal of missiles and drones. These hidden facilities represent the nerve center of Houthi operations. Built deep into Yemen's mountainous terrain, many of these bunkers were designed to withstand conventional airstrikes. Some reportedly extend hundreds of feet underground with multiple reinforced chambers connected by narrow tunnels. The bunkers serve as both protection for Houthi leadership and secure locations for planning and launching attacks on shipping and neighboring countries. As Houthi attacks intensified, targeting not just commercial vessels but also U.S. Navy ships, the American military response escalated from limited strikes to more comprehensive operations aimed at degrading Houthi military capabilities. The decision to target their underground facilities with the B-2 bomber marks a significant shift in strategy. Bombing deeply buried, hardened targets isn't simple. It requires extensive planning, specialized weapons, and the right delivery platform. This is precisely why the B-2 Spirit was chosen for this critical mission. According to military sources familiar with the operation, planning began weeks before the actual strike. with intelligence teams gathering detailed information on the Houthi facility's location, depth, and internal structure. Satellite imagery, drone reconnaissance, and human intelligence all played roles in building a complete picture of the target. Special attention was paid to identifying entry points, air vents, and possible weak points in the bunker's construction. The intelligence also needed to determine when the facility would be most active, ensuring maximum impact when the bombs finally fell. The weapons selected for the mission were equally important. The B-2 was reportedly loaded with multiple GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000-pound bombs specifically designed to destroy underground facilities. These massive weapons can penetrate up to 200 feet of earth and 60 feet of concrete before detonating. Each bomb creates a devastating shockwave that travels through tunnel systems, causing catastrophic structural failure throughout the complex. Planning also involved careful timing. The bombers would need to arrive over the target during a window when satellite communications were optimal, but when Houthi air defenses might be least alert. Additionally, the mission required coordination with other aircraft that would provide electronic warfare support to further blind any Houthi radar systems that might detect the approaching bombers. The final flight plan would take the B-2 Spirit bombers on a long-range mission requiring multiple in-air refuelings by tanker aircraft. These types of missions demonstrate America's global reach, the ability to strike targets anywhere on Earth, even with the most specialized aircraft in the inventory. The strike began in darkness. At least one B-2 Spirit bomber took off from an undisclosed base, likely either Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean or Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, though some reports suggest the bombers may have flown directly from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, a 30-plus-hour round-trip mission requiring multiple refuelings. As the bomber approached Yemeni airspace, other American aircraft reportedly began electronic jamming operations to blind any remaining Houthi radar systems. The B-2's own advanced electronic warfare systems further ensured its stealthy approach. Flying at over 50,000 feet, well above the range of most air defense systems, the bomber was essentially invisible to those below. Military sources describe the actual bombing run as textbook perfect. The B-2 approached the target area and opened its bomb bay doors. The massive penetrator bombs were released in sequence, each falling toward the exact coordinates of different parts of the underground complex. The bomber then banked away, continuing its mission to secondary targets or returning to base, while the weapons continued their deadly descent. The GBU-57 penetrators hit their marks with devastating accuracy. The first bombs created initial entry holes, with following bombs going deeper through the same holes to reach lower levels of the bunker system. Witnesses in the area reported feeling the ground shake from miles away as the massive explosions occurred deep underground. Secondary explosions continued for hours afterward as weapon caches and fuel storage inside the facility ignited. Satellite imagery taken after the strike showed large areas of collapsed earth where the facility had been, with almost no remaining visible structures. Smoke continued to rise from the site for days. In the days following the strike, Pentagon officials released limited information confirming the mission's success. According to these reports, the underground facility had been completely destroyed. Initial battle damage assessments suggested the bunker contained significant weapon stockpiles, including ballistic missiles and drones ready for deployment against shipping in the Red Sea. The human toll remains unclear, with estimates suggesting dozens of Houthi fighters and technical specialists were inside the facility at the time of the attack. Houthi officials initially denied the existence of the facility altogether, then later claimed the strike had hit a civilian location, a claim disputed by American intelligence showing the site was purely military in nature. Beyond the physical destruction, the psychological impact of the strike has been profound. The attack demonstrated that even the Houthis' most hardened and secret facilities are vulnerable to American weaponry. The use of the B-2, America's most advanced bomber, sent a clear message about the seriousness with which the U.S. views the threat to international shipping routes. Military analysts point out that this strike represents a new phase in operations against the Houthis. Earlier operations had focused on hitting visible targets like radar installations, missile launchers, and ports. This strike went after the heart of the Houthi military infrastructure, their protected command and control nodes and weapons storage facilities. The attack also demonstrates the evolution of America's bunker-busting capabilities. Earlier generations of weapons struggled to penetrate deeply buried facilities, but the combination of the B-2's precision and the massive GBU-57 penetrators proved devastatingly effective against even hardened underground structures. The strike sent political shockwaves throughout the Middle East. Iran, the Houthis' primary backer, condemned the attack and promised increased support for their allies in Yemen. However, intelligence sources suggest Iranian leaders were privately concerned about the demonstration of American military capabilities against hardened targets, capabilities that could potentially be used against Iran's own nuclear facilities. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, which have been fighting against the Houthis for years, welcomed the American strike. Both countries have suffered numerous Houthi missile and drone attacks on their territories and see degrading Houthi military capabilities as essential to regional stability. International shipping companies cautiously observe the situation, hoping the strike might reduce attacks on vessels passing through the Red Sea. In the weeks since the bombing, some shipping firms have resumed normal routes through the area, though many continue to reroute around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, adding significant time and expense to global shipping. The United Nations expressed concern about the escalation, but acknowledged the legitimacy of protecting international shipping lanes. Several European nations that depend heavily on trade through the Red Sea quietly supported the operation while publicly calling for diplomatic solutions to the Yemen conflict. For everyday Yemenis caught in the middle of this conflict, the strike represents another devastating chapter in a war that has created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. While the bunker was a military target, the broader conflict continues to cause immense civilian suffering across the country. Point to several significant aspects of this operation. First, it demonstrates America's continued willingness to use its most advanced and expensive military assets when deemed necessary. The B-2 Spirit represents the pinnacle of American air power, and deploying it shows a level of commitment that sends a message to adversaries worldwide. Second, the operation highlights the continuing importance of heavy bombers in modern warfare. Despite advances in missile technology and drones, large bombers carrying specialized heavy munitions remain the best option for certain mission types, particularly against deeply buried, hardened targets. Third, the strike demonstrates the effectiveness of the effects-based approach to military operations. Rather than conducting numerous smaller strikes against various targets, this operation aimed to create a specific strategic effect, eliminating a key node in the Houthi military infrastructure while demonstrating the vulnerability of even their most protected assets. Defense analysts also note that the mission provided real-world testing for America's bunker-busting capabilities that might someday be needed against other adversaries with hardened underground facilities such as North Korea or Iran. The lessons learned from this operation will likely influence future weapons development and tactics. Perhaps most importantly, the strike represents a significant escalation in America's approach to protecting shipping in the Red Sea. Previous operations had focused on limited strikes against visible targets. This operation went deeper, literally and figuratively, by targeting the infrastructure that supports Houthi offensive operations. While the strike destroyed one significant bunker complex, military analysts caution that the Houthis maintain other underground facilities across territory they control in Yemen. The group has demonstrated remarkable resilience over years of conflict, often rebuilding capabilities after suffering major losses. In the weeks following the B-2 strike, Houthi leaders have publicly vowed to continue their campaign against ships in the Red Sea, though there has been a noticeable decline in the frequency and effectiveness of their attacks. Whether this represents a temporary setback or a more significant degradation of their capabilities remains to be seen. For the United States, the operation represents both a tactical success and a strategic challenge. While the bunker's destruction achieved immediate military objectives, the broader question of how to ensure freedom of navigation in the Red Sea remains. Military strikes alone cannot resolve the complex political and humanitarian crisis in Yemen that gives rise to groups like the Houthis. The Biden administration has paired military operations with diplomatic efforts, working through Omani mediators to explore possible negotiations. However, the Houthis have so far shown little interest in ceasing their maritime attacks without major concessions regarding the situation in Gaza, an issue they've linked to their campaign against shipping. Military planners are likely preparing options for further strikes if Houthi attacks on shipping resume or intensify. These could include additional raids against underground facilities, targeting of Houthi leadership, or expanded operations against their supply networks. However, each escalation carries risks of widening the conflict or deepening the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Buried beneath the Rocky Mountains of northwestern Yemen lay a secret that the Houthis believed would remain forever hidden from American eyes. Over years of painstaking labor, often during nighttime hours to avoid satellite detection, engineers had hollowed out an extensive network of chambers and tunnels. What began as simple caves gradually transformed into a sophisticated underground command center, a fortress beneath the earth from which Houthi leaders could coordinate their campaign against international. American intelligence had been piecing together the puzzle of this underground complex for months. Synthetic aperture radar satellites peered through the Earth's surface, mapping subsurface anomalies. Signal intelligence captured electronic emissions coming from locations where no visible structures existed. Human sources provided fragments of information about entrances, layout, and operations. Gradually, a complete picture emerged of what might be the most important Houthi military asset yet discovered. At a secure facility thousands of miles from Yemen, maintenance crews swarmed around the dark silhouette of a B-2 Spirit bomber. The aircraft, with its distinctive flying wing design, represents perhaps the most sophisticated flying machine ever created. Each one costs more than $2 billion, more expensive than if it were made from solid gold. Only 20 remain in the operational fleet, making each aircraft a precious national asset deployed only when absolutely necessary. The bomber underwent extensive preparation for its upcoming mission. Technicians inspected every inch of its radar-absorbing skin, repairing even the smallest imperfections that might create a radar signature. Systems engineers tested its advanced electronic warfare capabilities, ensuring it could blind any enemy detection systems. Weapons specialists loaded multiple GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators into its capacious bomb bay, 30,000-pound behemoths designed specifically to destroy deeply buried facilities. This mission would push the aircraft to its limits. The flight plan called for a journey of thousands of miles, requiring multiple aerial refuelings from tanker aircraft strategically positioned along the route. The bomber would need to arrive precisely on time over the target, deliver its weapons with perfect accuracy, and then return to base. A total mission time approaching 30 hours of continuous flying. As the B-2 entered Middle Eastern airspace, its electronic warfare systems came alive, creating a protective bubble around the aircraft. These systems can detect incoming radar signals and jam them, blind enemy sensors, and create false targets to confuse air defenses. Combined with the bomber's inherent stealth characteristics, these electronic countermeasures made it virtually invisible to Houthi air defense networks. The aircraft maintained radio silence, communicating only through secure satellite links when absolutely necessary. Its path deliberately avoided populated areas and known radar installations. Flying at over 50,000 feet, well above the range of most air defense systems, the bomber remained undetected as it approached its target. In the cockpit, the crew conducted final weapons checks. Each GBU-57 penetrator bomb had been precisely programmed with the coordinates derived from intelligence about the underground facility. The weapons would strike in sequence, with each subsequent bomb following the path created by its predecessor to reach ever deeper sections of the bunker. The targeting sequence reflected a sophisticated understanding of how to destroy underground facilities. The first bomb would penetrate the outer layers of rock and concrete, creating an initial pathway. The second would follow this same path but penetrate deeper before detonating. The third would reach the lowest levels of the complex, ensuring no part of the facility escaped destruction. The B-2 Spirit that delivered this devastation was already thousands of miles away, refueling once more as it began the long journey home. Its mission complete, the bomber would eventually return to its climate-controlled hangar, where maintenance crews would immediately begin preparing it for its next deployment. The aircraft had performed flawlessly, delivering its weapons with pinpoint accuracy despite having flown halfway around the world. In the days following the strike, ships transiting the Red Sea reported a noticeable decrease in hostile activity. Commercial vessels that had been rerouting around Africa's Cape of Hope, adding weeks to transit times and billions to shipping costs, began tentatively returning to the shorter Red Sea route. Insurance rates for vessels transiting the area, which had skyrocketed in previous months, began to stabilize, though they remained elevated. The strike's impact extended far beyond Yemen's borders. In Tehran, Iranian military leaders reportedly convened emergency meetings to reassess the vulnerability of their own underground facilities. The demonstration of America's bunker-busting capabilities raised uncomfortable questions about the security of Iran's nuclear program, much of which is housed in hardened underground complexes. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, longtime opponents of the Houthis, welcomed the strike through diplomatic back channels while maintaining public neutrality. Both countries had suffered numerous Houthi missile attacks on their territories and viewed the degradation of Houthi military capabilities as essential to regional security. The success of the mission highlighted the unique capabilities that only the United States can bring to bear in modern warfare. The B-2 Spirit represents the pinnacle of stealth technology, combining a radical flying wing design with radar-absorbing materials to create an aircraft with the radar signature of a small bird, despite its 172-foot wingspan. Its ability to deliver massive ordnance with pinpoint accuracy from high altitude makes it particularly suited for striking hardened targets. Yet even the most sophisticated technology depends ultimately on human skill and endurance. The B-2 crew remained at their stations for nearly 30 continuous hours, managing complex systems, conducting multiple aerial refuelings, and executing a precision strike under immense pressure. Their training and professionalism ensured that despite the enormous complexity of the mission, the weapons found their targets with devastating effect. The decision to employ the B-2 against the Houthi bunker reflected careful strategic calculation by American military planners. The bomber represents one of America's most valuable and limited military assets, typically reserved for the most critical missions. Deploying it against Houthi targets signaled the seriousness with which the United States viewed the threat to international shipping. The mission also demonstrated the evolution of American military thinking about underground targets. Earlier approaches focused on attrition, conducting repeated strikes against exposed infrastructure in hopes of gradually degrading enemy capabilities. The B-2 strike represented a different philosophy, targeting the central node of Houthi operations in a single devastating blow designed to create effects that rippled throughout their entire organization. Perhaps most importantly, the mission sent a clear message to multiple audiences. To the Houthis, it demonstrated that no target was beyond America's reach, regardless of how deeply buried. To Iran, it served as a reminder that U.S. bunker-busting capabilities could potentially target their own underground facilities if tensions escalated further. To the international shipping community, it signaled America's commitment to keeping vital waterways open for commerce. The B-2 strike represented both tactical success and strategic challenge. While the bunker's destruction achieved immediate military objectives, the broader question of how to ensure freedom of navigation in the Red Sea remained. Military strikes alone could not resolve the complex political and humanitarian crisis in Yemen that enabled groups like the Houthis to thrive. As satellite analysts continued monitoring the smoking crater that was once a Houthi command bunker, the most important question remained unanswered. Would this demonstration of American military might push the region closer to stability and peace, or would it simply escalate a conflict that had already brought untold suffering to millions of Yemenis caught in the crossfire? Beyond its immediate impact on the Yemen conflict, the B-2 strike highlights an ongoing technological race between bunker builders and bunker busters. As nations and non-state actors increasingly invest in underground facilities to protect critical assets, the United States and other powers develop ever more sophisticated means to hold those targets at risk. This technological competition has accelerated in recent years, with countries including China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran all investing heavily in underground facilities. These range from missile silos to command bunkers to entire underground bases designed to allow military operations to continue even during sustained attacks. The United States maintains its edge primarily through two advantages: superior intelligence gathering capabilities and unmatched aerospace technology. Synthetic aperture radar, advanced signals intelligence, and human sources combine to locate and map underground facilities with unprecedented precision. Delivery systems like the B-2 Spirit and eventually its successor, the B-21 Raider, provide the means to strike those targets with weapons like the massive ordnance penetrator. The B-2 Spirit bomber strike against the Houthi underground facility marks a significant moment in America's military involvement in the region. By deploying one of its most advanced and powerful weapons systems against a deeply buried target, the United States demonstrated both technological superiority and strategic resolve. Yet this dramatic display of military power occurs against the backdrop of a complex conflict that has defied military solutions for nearly a decade. The Yemen war involves not just the Houthis, but also the internationally recognized Yemeni government, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iran, and various militia groups, all with different objectives and interests. The destruction of one bunker complex, however complete, represents just one action in this multifaceted conflict. The true measure of the operation's success will come in the weeks and months ahead as its impact on Houthi capabilities and decisions becomes clearer. For now, shipping companies continue to eye the Red Sea cautiously. Naval forces remain on high alert, and the people of Yemen continue to endure one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. The B-2's bombs may have destroyed their target with remarkable efficiency, but the path to lasting peace and stability in the region remains as challenging and uncertain as ever. What is clear, however, is America's willingness to deploy its most sophisticated weapons when it believes its interests are threatened. The ghost-like B-2 Spirit, designed during the Cold War to penetrate the most heavily defended airspace, has once again proven its value in a very different kind of conflict, demonstrating that no bunker is truly safe when America decides it needs to be destroyed.